We have two large alliance systems. On one side, we have the Germans. Germany is the rising star of Europe. They surpassed France in power back in 1871, and they've been competing with the United Kingdom. They have a much larger army, as the UK has a very small army. They have a small but elite and professional army, while all the other countries in Europe rely on large reserve armies and conscription. The Germans allied themselves with the Austrian-Hungarian Empire. Austria-Hungary is not in the best condition. It is plagued by nationalism, and a lot of countries want to break away from it. In addition, the Habsburg administration is very much stuck in the 19th, if not the 18th century. So naturally, the Germans want another ally. They help the Italians fight the Austrians to regain control of Venice, back during the Italian Wars of Unification. And now they hope that they can form an alliance with Austria and Italy. As might be easy to imagine, the Italians and Austrians still have some bad blood, so it would prove difficult to get them on the same side of any crisis. So the Germans were also looking for an ally in the Middle East, and they got the Ottoman Empire. The Ottoman Empire is called the Old Man of Europe, or often the Sick Old Man of Europe, and is not in the best condition, but is still a large empire, and also has access to important resources like oil. On the other side, we have the Entente, also known as the Triple Entente, although the Triple Entente was not yet fully formalized. So the French and the British had signed an Entente going back to the 1910s, which had actually been reinforced by the Morocco crisis, where Germany almost went to war with Britain and France. France has also been trying to get Britain and Russia to be on better terms so that the three of them could form an alliance. All of this sets the stage for a crisis. In July 1914, the heir of the Austrian-Hungarian Empire, Archduke Franz Ferdinand, goes on a visit to Sarajevo, which is the capital of Bosnia, which is occupied by the Austrian-Hungarians, however has a large Serbian minority who want to join with Serbia. So, the Archduke is visiting the city, and he is assassinated by Garavino Princip. And this kicks off a diplomatic crisis as the Austrian-Hungarian Empire feels that it needs to start a war with Serbia in order to reinforce its honor, even though the emperor is personally happy to have Franz Ferdinand out of the picture, as the two were not on good terms. The Austrians check with the Germans to make sure that they have success. And what the Germans respond with is known as the blank check, that whatever happens, Germany will have Austria-Hungary's back. Austria-Hungary sends a list of demands to Serbia, but they are planning on going to war whatever Serbia says, as they've judged that no one else will get involved. This proved to be a misjudgment, and Serbia responded accepting almost all of the Austrian-Hungarian demands, and proposing to put the remainder to the international courts. Everyone, including the Kaiser of Germany, thought that this meant that war was averted. However, the Austria-Hungarians still declared war on Serbia. This led to Germany and Russia entering the war. And Germany entering the war against Russia led to France entering the war. And Germany had a plan for if it was ever going to fight France and Russia. It was called the Schlieffen Plan. It started out invading through the Netherlands and Belgium. However, under Moltke, it had been simplified to just invading through Belgium. Belgium was, however, neutral and was guaranteed by the British Empire. So, when the Germans attacked through Belgium, that meant that Britain joined the war, thus setting the sides for World War I, The Austrians begin the war by pressing their attack on Serbia. Now, Austria is a much larger country than Serbia, and they assume that they will be able to defeat the Serbian army rapidly. However, due to mismanagement of the Austrian war situation and the surprising skill of the Serbian soldiers, the Austrians are actually pushed out of Serbia in their initial invasion. Now, the Germans are starting their attack on the Western Front, since they assume the Russians will not be able to mobilize fast enough. And they start by pushing into Belgium. This brings Britain into the war, but it's going to take a while for Britain to get troops from Britain into Europe. Germans start pushing through Belgium and then turn south towards Paris. They end up pushing all the way to the Marne River, where they are stopped by the British and French. The Germans are stopped. This is as far as they are going to get in the entire war. The Entente and the Germans both start what's called the race towards the sea. This is when they start digging in or forming a line of trenches that will form the front lines for most of the war. And they are both trying to outflank each other, and they end up building trenches all the way along the front line. On the Eastern Front, the Central Powers are surprised by how quickly Russia is able to attack. They launch a successful invasion into Galicia, or Austrian Poland. However, the invasion into East Prussia is stopped in the Battle of Tannenberg, a battle which makes Generals Hindenburg and Ludendorff famous. Following up on the success in Tannenberg, the Germans also start pushing the Russians out of most of Russian-controlled Poland. So, in order to bring the Ottoman Empire into the war, thus expanding the front and giving Germany another ally, as their alliance with Italy did not end up paying off, the Germans sent in ships to the Black Sea, and they bombed a Russian port. However, in order to make the Russians think that the ship belonged to the Ottoman Empire, they flew Ottoman flags, and they had the sailors wear fezzes or a Turkish hat, causing the Russians to think that they had been bombed by the Ottoman Empire. At this point, the Ottoman Empire was bombed by Russians, and the Ottoman Empire, believing that they were unjustly attacked by the Russians, declared war on Russia and the rest of the Entente. The British decided that they could easily knock the Ottoman Empire out of the war if they landed troops on Ottoman Europe, on the Gallipoli Peninsula. The hope was that by taking this peninsula, they'd be able to access the Dardanelles and cut through to Constantinople and force the Ottoman Empire to surrender. However, the British invasion of Gallipoli failed to achieve its goals and got bogged down in trench warfare similar to the Western Front. The Entente also got Italy to join the war, thus opening a new front. However, Italy's attempts to invade into Austria-Hungary proved to be unsuccessful. In 1915, towards the end of the year, Austrian and German forces were finally able to conquer Serbia because Bulgaria, another neighbor of Serbia, joined in the war, and they were able to attack from both sides. The Serbian army was able to retreat into Bulgaria, and they ended up joining with Allied forces in Greece. On the Western Front, Germany developed a strategy of bleeding France white, or causing the French to lose so many troops that they would have to surrender. In order to do this, they launched an attack on Verdun, which they believed the French would fight excessively hard to control, even if it meant they were losing more men than they could afford to lose. The Germans started by making rapid progress, which actually led the Kaiser to visit the battlefield, thinking it was going to be a major German victory. However, General Philippe Pétain issued his famous order, "They shall not pass," and the French, despite being initially pushed back, ended up holding on to Verdun and fighting there from February until December. The British, wanting to support the French, launched the Battle of the Somme in their sector of the front. This proved to be a bloody massacre, like most of the battles in World War I. However, one of the things that was different this time is that the British unveiled their new weapon, a weapon which they hoped would end the stalemate of trench warfare. This weapon was called the tank. In the future, we will see that it did kind of achieve this goal, just not in this war. Another important battle happened at sea. The Battle of Jutland finally pitched the vaunted dreadnought fleets of the United Kingdom and Germany against each other. The two fleets of mighty battleships met at sea, and the result was a stalemate, which left both sides too concerned to risk their ships in another battle, making this the only clash of the dreadnought battleships. On the Eastern Front, Russia launched the Brusilov offensive, and this initially made great progress. However, it was not supported by other segments of the Russian front, and eventually ran out of steam. Romania also joined the war, backing the Entente. And while they had hoped to gain land, the Central Powers focused all of their attention for the remainder of 1916 on conquering Romania as quickly as possible. And while the country of Romania was not completely conquered, the majority of Wallachia was. 1916 ends with Romania mostly conquered by the Central Powers, and Serbia entirely conquered by the Central Powers. Little Belgium clinging on to life. And the offensives of both sides, the Central Powers in Romania and Verdun grinding to a halt, and the Ally or Entente offensives in the Somme and the Brusilov offensive also running out of steam. What will 1917 hold?